Hey everyone, it is Deflating Atheism here with my good friend Ageratos Henosis. You may recognize him. He's often in the chat when Wicked Felina and Fabulous and I do our 11-hour live streams. He's there in the comments, and he's here with us today in video form, and he has a YouTube channel and a new YouTube channel, and kind of getting off the ground. And so introduce yourself to us.
Greetings, everyone. Where should I start? First off, I want to apologize because sometimes there's a bit of a delay when words come into my mouth and I try to analyze them before I speak them. So I apologize if I come off a bit like that.
Also, the words are going into outer space here. It's going into outer space and around a network of towers and ending up on the other side of the Earth. So that takes a little time too.
So where should I start? I live in Australia. My parents fled communism. They were blacklisted in, not to come back until democracy came back, which was in the Velvet Revolution in '89, I think. And so I'm very, aware of the politics and stuff, especially nowadays and now. And
you kind of see the warning signs.
Yeah, definitely. More so, the last few years I've been being more aware of politics and how everything has changed in some regards.
Yes, and I know a lot of people are saying this is not the America I grew up. Well, speaking from my perspective, I mean, I know so many Americans who are saying this is not the America I grew up in. This is not even the America I would recognize from 2 years ago.
Well, we're actually going to have elections here in the next few months. The first one's local, and then the whole Australia has a vote in May, I think. So I'm kind of worried a bit because there's two major parties: the Liberals, which are the right wing, which are total opposite of what they mean over your side of the pond, and Labour, which is more of So and in the news headlines, the current leader, which is Liberals, accused Labour of being Manchurian candidates for China. So that's a bit worrying if they, come into power.
Yes. Perhaps not. I don't know why. Now I'm concerned about what I can say. But yes.
There's a lot of topics I'd like to discuss, like China and Ukraine, and maybe
Americans, we're familiar with the New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who is very much like a Justin Trudeau figure, and so we know sort of who's at the top of New Zealand, which is obviously a much smaller country than Australia. I mean, who is the Prime Minister of Australia, and are they
Scott Morrison?
He's not quite in the pocket as much as Ardern and Justin Trudeau. He still believes in freedom somewhat, I'm guessing. Okay. Yeah, so
it's been a bit strict under him. So there's a lot of unrest in Australia, and they might decide to vote for Labour, and that's what I'm worried about. Also, there's been a lot of protests in the state, Canberra, which is kind of like Washington DC, and there was microwave weapons on cars or something, but they weren't used. But lots of people took photos of them, they were police cars, unlicensed or something. It was weird. It was all over Twitter. I heard about these microwave weapons a few years back or something, but yeah, it's interesting.
Do you think they were European in origin?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, No, about what Canada when they said they had unbadged police officers.
Hmm.
They were saying they were either from the EU or the United Nations or something like that. But it's concerning, is what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what are the protests?
I'm not sure if they're like anti-vax. I haven't really looked into them, but I have some family friends who are there and living on a farm because the farm's open to some of the protests to live off, to go between. What else? Yeah, I'm not too like I looked in the news and they hardly talk about it like as much. Like they mention it, but yeah, and I try not to watch the news, the mainstream news as much. I try to watch like Sky News and some other ones as well, because they're more like like truer than like the mainstream news.
Well, that's what they were saying about Canada, is that even Canadians were less aware of the protests than people who follow independent media.
Yeah, and because I want to go into like Ukraine and China maybe if you want.
Okay.
But before then, I wanted to mention like I think about mid last year there was like expose by a X Factor winner called Etalin Childs.
I've seen
like
the
5.5 hours.
I've seen the entire 5 hour.
What did you think?
Version. No, I skipped through some of the celebrity stuff.
Yeah.
There were celebrity montages that went on for 45 minutes.
There's no updates on where he is or what's like. I even look on Wikipedia about him, and that's the last entry.
Oh, well, because the 5 hour video is no longer there.
Yeah, or there's some other re-uploaders on BitChute and YouTube and stuff. I backed it up as well because I found it quite interesting, and some of the stuff he talks about, like the grand architect of the universe that the Freemasons believe in, and all that stuff. It's quite interesting. I'd recommend if you have time, any of the viewers.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to dwell on it, but like if I had watched that, if I had seen that video 3 years ago, first off, I probably wouldn't have watched it 15 minutes in. Oh, okay, I know. I already knew he posed 2 questions at the top of the video. I'm like, okay, I already know the answer to these questions. So it's kind of a non-reveal. Okay, it's Masons and it's safe. Okay, I got that. But if it were not for the events, and by the way, he never really explicitly mentioned the events of the last 2 years, except for a few select places. Yeah, he called, he mentioned Dr. Fauci, but and like a few otherwise, he really did not dwell on the events of the last 2 years. But I think he would find a much more receptive audience these days. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and the whole death threat for like speaking up that you're a Freemason, that was also revealing to me. Like I didn't know, like they threatened to with the sounds and stuff. Yeah,
and that's when you're getting into the very bottom rungs. That's way before you reach the top of the ladder. You're already sworn to these oaths. So yeah, you understand how it works, and I mean that I watched basically the whole thing, and I was wrapped, and I can't get it out of my mind now, honestly.
Yeah, there was a passage in a not canon gospel called the Gospel of the Birth of Mary that describes Zacharias going into a temple, and it kind of plays into the Freemasonry secret, cult thing. But it's like he sees like the temple priests worshipping this like goat-headed creature, and then he goes out to try to tell everyone. and he gets struck down dead, and then Jesus mentions him when he talks about Zacharias and punishment coming to those that killed him and stuff. It's I think there's a book called The Evil Creator by like but it's really expensive. It talks about that as well. Anyway, let's we don't have to.
Is the gospel, is that an apocryphal gospel?
Yeah, but it's not like canon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also yeah, China. Oh, actually, which one should we go into first? China or Ukraine?
I'm leaving it up to you. By the way, Ageratos at the top of this, he expressed some concern about our subject matter. I said, well, Felina and Fabulous Agnostic and I basically do cartwheels through the minefield whenever we do our stream. So I mean, go ahead.
Okay, so let's speak a bit about Ukraine, because I have some family across the border in Slovakia. I don't know what's going on, but there's a lot of fake news. Like, the Ghost of Kiev was from like a video game or something. I have some other examples of like fake news that was like circulating around that people believed were true. Like there was like, first off, I don't support either faction. Like, the Ukraine government actually sent a message to some gaming companies to ban all Russians, at least temporarily, which I found like really not on. Anyway, some other example.
That was fake news.
No, that wasn't fake news. Okay. But I'll go into the other examples. The actual was like when they were arming the populace, that some of the weapons were fake cardboard.
I saw that.
Weapons. The Snake Island soldiers, how they threatened a Russian ship, and they claim were killed, but they were actually captured, and they gave them water and everything. That was like another example of like totally fake news. Okay. So like I'm not sure what's actually going on, but from my family, I hear that there's NATO troops across the border who not allowed to cross or something, and well, I think Trump would actually ignore the rules and help them, but like I don't know what would happen, because I think Trump would make things better, but
so the NATO troops are not allowed into Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're waiting at the border, and I think recently some of the Slovaks and stuff have been supplying some of the Ukrainians or something, like driving there, giving supplies and going back to the houses. But yeah, it's not as like, because China is so close to us, Australia, like I worry about them a bit more. I think about them a bit more, because there were blockades, monitoring their flights over Taiwan. And since they're gone to most of them, there's been even more flights around the border of Taiwan. So like, there's like lots of things that could escalate. Like they've been ramping up the military and nuclear and all that stuff, nuclear weapons and stuff. So that's kind of freaky. And I think, something about, I would just call it CCP, because they really freak me out, like the way they detain people of beliefs and stuff. Yeah.
And well, I'm not smart enough to figure out all the geopolitics here, because supposedly they have China has some sort of alliance with Russia, and I haven't really figured it out. Maybe they figure it's they can hold off mutual enemies or something. But in America, we've gotten 4 years of fake news. Well, yeah. So 5 years of fake news about Russia, and many, many years of fake news about Ukraine. And now this is like the crossover speaking as an American, the crossover that no one asked for. So I don't expect that. I have no assumption that anything we're hearing from the news is accurate. They've blown any trust we had, and it's too perfect. It's like, oh wow, a news story involving both Russia and Ukraine, which have been the subjects of just unrelenting fake news for the past few years. It, obviously, our own politicians have vested interests in Ukraine, which again are extremely naughty. But there's it's not accidental that our former president's first impeachment involved asking about the crimes of the former vice president, now current president's business dealings in Ukraine. And by the way, they also accused him of being a Russian asset. So none of that is accidental.
I saw a funny meme of like a chip being taken out, COVID, and Ukraine being put in. It's like everyone's talking about that and not like COVID as much. It's in the mainstream news. I find it weird. And what's the other word?
Well,
it's
they've been hopscotching from outrage to outrage to outrage over the past 5 years. So that's not particularly new. My own impression is that they didn't want to let go of the COVID narrative until they got the passports, because the next thing on the docket was supposed to be climate. Well, we already see, like, Project Veritas already got the notes from CNN. They wanted to go from COVID to climate. And so all those COVID passports would then become climate passports, of course. But they never got those. They never got them in America, at least. And so I think it's very reluctantly that they're abandoning this. They're out of necessity from this maybe perhaps genuinely unforeseen geopolitical event. But now the Democrats, sorry, a little coof there. The Democrats are realizing there's going to be a price to be paid for all this. That the time is running out because we have the midterm elections coming up in America, and so when you hear, I know this is probably of limited interest to you, but we had the State of the Union address 2 nights ago, and it wasn't, normally in a State of the Union address, you talk about what's happened in the previous year. Instead, Joe Biden gave a stump speech, gave a campaign speech, basically for the midterm elections. And a lot of the things he was promising were the things that Trump already did. So it shows you that they realize they're not untouchable and that there is a price that's going to be paid. And so I don't believe them. I don't believe Joe Biden. I think he's lying through his teeth. But it is kind of encouraging, at least, that they do recognize that elections have consequences. That the people can have their voice heard in the ballot box, voting booth. Yeah, voting booth. Let's go with that. So yeah, so there seems to be sanity coming back into American politics for the first time in 2 years, which makes me cautiously optimistic, not because I think our leaders are sane, but because I think our leaders are concerned with their own self-preservation. So that's kind of what American politics is like these days. It's seeming more normalish.
It's also convenient for the media to like keep changing the focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Oh. That's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so what I'm saying is the psychology of hitting people with one hysteria after another. They become very susceptible over time. they become very suggestible, maybe is the word I should be using. So we got Russian collusion hysteria, just like three years of the white supremacist hysteria. There are tens of millions of white supremacists in America. They're hiding behind every tree. And then we have the Ukrainian quid pro quo hysteria, just one hysteria after another, when they say, okay, your constitutional rights are null and void. There are emergency measures that have to be enacted. I think at that point, people were just so fatigued. To use Amy Goodman, who's as much of a authoritarian as anyone, but she had the correct phrase for it. She called it the shock doctrine. It's just you overload people with enough hysteria, they become very suggestible. They become very pliant. Now I think people are sort of picking themselves off the ground and dusting themselves off and saying, hey, what's happened here? Why did you do all of this to us? And so I think that's how their time has run out too, because people are no longer just sort of whatever, knocked backwards by all this stuff. They're starting to take a more sober account of what's been going on.
There was actually, I mentioned this to you before, a woman in the group I was attending who was a perfect example of SJW, right? Like she, calling capitalism oppressive and all this other stuff, not realizing she was oppressive.
Mm-hmm.
That, and I even asked her about communism. She totally believed it. Like, it was kind of scary. Like, and every time I bring up, communists killed over 100 million people, she gets triggered, or like, it's, I don't get it. Like, why don't some people are just hardwired to this zany cringe, like this really bad, what's the word, ideology. Like, and it's hard to wake some people up. Like, it's, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of call that a chew toy. The people in power throw people a chew toy, and they can have that communism. And it's part of a disagreement I have with some people I have conversations with, because obviously the people who are determining policy, they have multinational corporations at their back. They have all these intelligence agencies at their back. What they're not, no one genuinely, like, no one over the age of 25 with an IQ over 90 really thinks that a proletarian revolution is feasible or desirable. But you can use those people to help destabilize a nation, and so they're being used as useful idiots. Now we could look at history and we could see what happens to these useful idiots as soon as a revolution takes hold. We could even probably look a little bit at Ukraine for an example of that in a limited sense. I mean, you could look at what happened in Iran in the 70s. I mean, you can use a Marxist to affect your goal. But then, what's all the Bill Gates and all those other guys I could name? What are they going to do? What are the extremely powerful and wealthy going to do with these poor as dirt revolutionaries and miscontents who are great at burning things down, but are not really good at anything else?
Well, I find interesting about the deep state, and I've been looking into the New World Order, but like the idea of it, like these people who want it, they're playing into the apocalypse, so narrative. So it's interesting to see how they're bringing about like prophecy. Like it's interesting. Like,
Well, okay, so this
I
is
don't know why they're doing it when they know that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, so I follow
them.
some prophecy channels and stuff. So I by no means go to offer an informed, authoritative opinion. That's what no one would want. But how I've heard it explained is that they're trying to do an end run of the eschaton. Basically, they're trying to set up the conditions of basically the apocalypse to sort of get around it and maybe fool Christians into accepting a false Christ. I mean, even in the biblical apocalypse, it talks about the false prophet, which people confuse with the beast and the antichrist. They're all different things, but that's part of the deception. And so, like a lot of the sort of prophets I sort of follow on YouTube say that this is not really the end times. This is the simulation of the end times that the devil is doing to get around the actual judgment. So that's how I've heard it explained. It's sort of a false flag operation. It's sort of a theological false flag.
Yeah, I find this stuff fascinating. Like, I was actually reading some Philip K. Dick. Have I talked to this about you before?
I think you might have been talking to Fabulous or no, my friend David. He's a lot more knowledgeable about Philip K. Dick than I am. Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, he was saying like time stopped in like 70 AD, and like time is an illusion, and that like
God's I only know that because there was a movie called Waking Life. It was
I love that section. Yeah, okay, when he explains it and stuff. Yeah, that's probably my favorite part in the movie.
So I'm sorry, keep explaining it.
Yeah, so that like I don't know, like who is interesting, like I'm very straight to the point, so I always describe the whole thing straight away and then like leave out the tidbits and everything. But yeah, I recommend Valis. Valis is a really good book. It talks about that kind of stuff. That was actually released after his death in 1981, I think.
So what would be his view of the sort of the eschaton of eschatology?
I think he actually knew Bishop Pike. He wrote a book about him. Do you know what's it his name? James Pike, I think. He was like
Alfred Pike.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I know that from that 5-hour video.
No, it must be James Pike or Jim Pike, and he was like, it's a really tragic story of how he went to Israel to try to retrace the steps of Jesus. He only had 2 cans of Coke. It was with his wife. The car broke down. They got lost, and they split up. And his wife found help, and they found him like hunched over. And yeah, it's explained in the book, but the book's kind of like, I think it's the transmigration of Timothy Archer, but it's loosely based on his life. And I think they spoke about like different aspects of Christianity together. And I find some of Philip K. Dick's views interesting. Like, I like looking into like different views and stuff, even like flat earth, and like not like what as it's portrayed, but like the idea of like this YouTube channel called Celebrate Truth that talks about how like the map is and how there's like Antarctica walls around it. I'm not sure if I entirely believe it, but NASA, like, I'm not sure if I don't believe in NASA because they've lied to me so many times, so I just believe like in like, I'm kind of fluctuate on cosmology sometimes. I have like different views on what space is and stuff, but I find it like very fascinating, like all that kind of like what happened on the moon, if there was a moon landing, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're hitting all the buttons. Yeah. Well, like the plausible explanation I've heard for that is that there was too much riding on it to to allow any possibility of failure in the American moon mission. And sending 2 Americans in a tiny capsule to the moon, there's a high possibility of failure. So they really did go to the moon, but they filmed a backup on Earth just in case. Just in case it didn't work out, which there was a very good chance it didn't. So you don't need an either or scenario. You can have a both end scenario.
Yeah, yeah.
There's sort of a false dichotomy there. But yeah, I mean that's something that they really take away from us, and it's such a it's such a blow to critical thinking, which I think is kind of what the people in charge want. They don't want a populace that's in charge of critical thinking, because like a radio show that Fleet is a big fan of was the Art Bell show, which became the George Norrie show, and I used to listen to it when I was like driving home at 3 a.m. And so they'd have a lot of stuff, and it's for the most part, it's very lighthearted. It talks about all this paranormal stuff, and the overall tone is very lighthearted. At least it was when it was George Norrie. I can't say the same for when it was Art Bell. But in fact, it's almost whimsical. They're almost making fun of themselves a lot of times. But you have people calling in. You have these, experts, or you could put that in quotation marks, experts, and they give their case. And sometimes you're like, okay, this is crap. This is just crap. There's, this guy's just having a goof. A lot of times you're like, oh, that's actually very plausible. And what you're doing is you're exercising critical thinking. They're putting it out there, and you have to decide for yourself: does this make sense? Does this harmonize with what else I know of how the world works, or is this just ridiculous BS on the face? Sometimes the most counterintuitive concepts have a ring of truth to them, or maybe they are true, and we've just been lured into a false paradigm or something. So you're entertaining ideas, and you're having to figure out things for yourself, whether they're true or false. But nowadays, the people in charge just slap that misinformation label on it, and it's like, oh well, the people in charge will decide for you whether something is true or not. And whether something is a ridiculous conspiracy theory or not. Well, they're promulgating their own conspiracy theories, but and all the liberals who 10 years ago were all pro free speech or something, are now literally saying that $5 billion tech firms should have complete control over what ideas are allowed to be expressed, or the political party in power at any given moment gets to decide what's true or false. Gee, you kind
of culture is crazy.
Yeah, they will probably choose facts that are convenient for them. The thought never really occurs to these liberals. But yeah, so what the hell has happened to liberals? We see their fraudulence. We see I don't know. I think maybe they have the shock doctrine. Maybe they've been through too many hysterias, and they've just become completely suggestible, and they don't know which way is up anymore.
Yeah, I want to get back to that. Actually, I was thinking, like, of all these mysteries, I want to ask God, like, when I meet him, like, all these, what would be your like top 5 questions, like mysteries you'd want to know the answers to? Or 10 or whatever.
That is a good question. I can't say I've ever really thought about that question. What are your top?
I don't know where to start. JFK, 9/11, all these like mysteries that I really want to know what actually happened, like flat Earth, the moon, Atlantis, all these, like, yeah. And like characters in the Bible, like who Simon Magus was, and what this naked man fleeing from Gethsemane was. That was like weird, like passage to have, like just after Jesus was arrested. There's this mysterious, some people think it's like a resurrected person because he's wearing silk, I think, and people who pass away wear silk or something. Yeah. So yeah, that was interesting. And Lazarus was an interesting figure too. and yeah, maybe what happened with Babel or stuff like that. Yeah, the Great Flood. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of don't think it will be revealed to. It will be an open book
yeah,
for us at that point.
yeah, definitely.
A lot like I was never really into like the paranormal or into like conspiracy theories or stuff
Mm.
before, but
But yeah,
now I have a newfound appreciation now that they're clamping down on quote unquote misinformation. It's like the thing that your parents tell you that you can't do, and now you suddenly want to do it, And so I see the value in having let's throw ideas around. Let's eh, I mean, even if it's goofy ideas, even if we okay, this is just silly talking, we're still using critical thinking, and these are skills that we can use to determine what things that we're being fed are true and which are just BS. And
there's
so
a yeah. Sorry.
they just want us gullible, they just want us compliant,
Yeah.
they just want us believing any stupid conspiracy theory they throw at us. And they've given us Trump colluded with Russia to buy Facebook ads. Trump had a quid pro quo with Zelensky to get dirt. All BS. We know the origins of these conspiracy theories, and we know them to be false, but they're official conspiracy theories.
There's a lot of fake zany conspiracies, and I don't buy into a lot. There's a YouTuber called Wendigoon who has like a iceberg tier,
Yes.
the different tiers. That was interesting. A lot of zany ones on there. There was even a shocking one I had to skip. I can't watch that one. But yeah, there's some interesting ones. But yeah, anyway, I wanted to maybe mention um I almost died a few times, and like I had some NDEs, but they're very brief. Like I could explain them, like what happened if you want.
uh Yeah. Okay. So let me go to the comments first, since I will be kind of changing
Mhm.
tracks. My friend, well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say I'll let him volunteer that information if and when he wants to. But hey there, Peace just left a comment. Yeah. So John Harrison is here. Lemon and Matov. Well, I've got the COVID.
Oh man, sorry to hear.
No, I'm joking. I had
Okay.
I actually did get very sick. I'm
Mhm.
afraid I made my sister came down from New York, and so I'm afraid I got her and her son sick. I think it's just the common cold.
Yeah, yeah. We had one, and my nephew had a cold as well. Passed it on to my brother, and yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like every other cold I've had in my life, so I don't think
Mm.
it was anything.
I think in my local chemists, they're like dishing out these free antigen tests for people on yeah, for some people. So I might pick one up just in case and to check if but yeah, I'm not too fussed. I don't like these restrictions, like going to see a doctor is like a chore because they want you to know if you like took the vaccine, and it's just getting so ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
some states actually don't have to wear masks, but in my state, masks are mandatory in like public places, which suck.
Well, yeah, and like John Harrison used to listen to Art Bell and George Norrie. Yeah, well, see, this is they wanted mandates at the top level, at the federal level of everything, because when you have different states following different policies, now you have control groups, and you get to empirically determine the efficacy of these policies, and you get to see the V mandates don't work. The mask mandates really don't work. And so the whole fiction sort of fell apart because we see Florida never really did anything except for at the very beginning in 2020. And so that was always the control group. And so of course, New York and California, which are the most liberal, had the most stringent mandates, and they were the worst. They ended up pretty much the worst. So if we had had a federal level policy where all these things were enacted equally, we could never compare those things and see that all these mandates don't make sense.
Yeah, there was some interesting independent people that I might vote for underneath like some of the more mainstream. I made like a cheat sheet of people I want to vote for in the coming election. I actually researched a lot into the different parties and their policies. I think, like, because in Australia, voting is mandatory, but like a lot of people don't care who they vote for, so they might now, but they'll probably vote for the opposition, which I don't know how that's going to work out, but also
So Rivertown Cards here says Richard Bauchman talks a bit about the naked disciple in Jesus and the Eyewitnesses. So that's a book you might want to check out.
cool. Yeah, check that out.
And they asked me here if I'm Orthodox, and P says I think deflating is Catholic. Yeah, I'm Catholic on paper. I just call myself a Christian. I'm still figuring out the doctrines. There's this things in Roman Catholicism I can't mount a defense for, so I just call myself a Christian.
Yeah. Speaking of the Bible, there's a few different ways you can interpret punishment, and I find it fascinating because I have my own views. Like, do you mind if I go into that?
Go ahead.
Sure. Is it this page? So, like, you can, like, the Gnostics believe in reincarnation. That's more Eastern. I haven't really studied that side, but like, there's there was hell, and there's the two main ones, and there's annihilationism, and I can't really say that properly, and so annihilationism is when your soul gets blotted out and you don't exist, and then there's a third one which I've been looking into, which I personally like. They say that, well, there's different views on it, but they say that there's a correction and that it's of a time. Like the word eternity was kind of mistranslation, because like in Greek, there's like different words you can use.
What's like universalism?
Yeah, that's the one, and I find that fascinating. Christian universalism, and like to the old creation, Jesus brought all creation to himself to save, and I find that, like, because I always had like I can't really like with hell, like I can't really, there's something about it that I like, the eternity of it, or that interpretation of it I had an issue with. But I read this book. Oh, that's not the right book. It's by David Bentley Hart, and it's called "The All Shall Be Saved," and that was really interesting to me. Like, he kind of questioned that as well, and had like different quotes from different people, and like, I think that's a really good book. I found it really changed my view, and also I had this feeling one night when I kind of was semi-awake, and I felt this compassion. Not to the extent that some NDEs experience, but like I can kind of see like how God loves his creation, like that kind of compassion. Like, I think,
So it was more of a mystic experience than an NDE. Yeah.
Well, I actually got knocked out once, and I was in this like black void for like a second, or I don't know how long.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really remember that because I was like about 10 at the time. And there's a second one that I had, which like really lucid dream, like, because I love these NDE experiences. They're like dreamlike experiences, and they don't like really clarify it. They say like a vision or it was real, but to me, it was more like a lucid dream
Mhm.
or like maybe a vision or something. But like what I experienced was like two quick visions. One was like a very hellish experience, but I interpret it differently now because I link it together with the second vision, which
Oh,
was like
was it like a vision where you were bodily there, or was it just
I was observing these two events, and the second one was of myself being executed in this London tower or something, and then this this person like Jesus swoops in and saves me. So that really, really kind of changed. And for the longest time, I didn't want to believe in my NDE, so I kind of tried to forget, and then like I can still kind of recall it a lot now. Like it wasn't like a dream. It was like yeah. So
Yeah, well, I've that's actually very common as well. Not quite what your experience, but people. Well, I guess kind of a combination of your two experiences, where people are in hell and they describe it in very similar terms, and then Jesus appears, or some figure that is Jesus like, and they call out to the name of Jesus, and they are delivered from that, and that's apparently very common.
there was a YouTube channel. He hasn't done anything recently. Um, I forget what his channel. I have to look it up. I might post it in the comments. But he talks about NDE and how like the bad NDEs turn into good NDEs, and like yeah, it's more like a in between place. I think between waking life and the afterlife. Like to me, that's why I feel like these entities aren't actually a lot of them aren't actually the afterlife. They're like dreams in between. I think,
Well, that's a problem because I
and
mean,
there's a lot of fakes as well.
yeah, I mean, according to scripture, judgment comes at judgment day, and so I not to say that I'm very much a believer in NDEs, but that doesn't really explain the experiences that people have in these NDEs. If judgment comes at judgment day, and apparently, if we assuming we all have the same judgment day, uh,
Yeah. This thing life review that reminds me of like judgment a lot. How each people has um this life review of the life, all the good things they've done and all the bad. I'd imagine a lot of these psychosociopaths would have a really bad time there because of all the evil they've done. But I hope, I pray for their corrections that
mm,
they can learn compassion and move on. But yeah, it's ever since I learned that there are people like that on Earth that kind of shocked me a little, like that there are people on Earth with they have no empathy,
uh,
that can't learn what that is, and a lot of them have been traumatized into like the way that they are, and yeah, it's
yeah. Well, it's very much very much unlike people who do have it. I'm sorry, man.
it's okay.
People who do have empathy, but thrill with of course, being cruel to others. It's not because they lack empathy. It's precisely because they do have empathy, because they do recognize suffering in others, that they get a charge from it. But yes, I was going to say something, but yes, there was something about NDEs. But yeah,
I recently bought a study Bible, and
Connor.
it's really good. Like you can write notes on the sides and stuff and highlight sections. It's my second Bible, but I've taken a few of my favorite passages. There's there's interesting sections. I've written some of the places down here actually, where it talks about what is it? The prince or ruler of this world, which is evil or something, and then like the true God, the invisible Father, like it's mainly in John and Colossians though. But yeah, there's a YouTuber that talks about like he believes there's two gods, like there's a lesser fake Satan, and then the true God, that loves us and all. Like, and but yeah, there's all kinds of like these interesting stuff.
Well,
I don't want to go on about it, but yeah,
that's sort of like Gnosticism. You have
yeah,
sort of demiurge, between us and God.
I call him Satan the demiurge, and yeah, because yeah, but it's good to research and like study the Bible. It has a lot of, especially the New Testament is I've learned a lot from it and stuff.
Yeah, I wish I was better versed in that, but I'm certainly a lot more interested in that. Very much like that video from that guy, the Australia's Got Talent guy, where I'm not that certainly not that I disbelieved it before, but I'm a lot more receptive to that message nowadays, and especially for a lot of people who are sort of very casual Christians. I would probably count myself among them. It's like I should probably be taking this stuff more seriously. I should probably be conversant to this stuff if it is what I believe, rather than just going through the iTunes thing and clicking agree at the bottom.
Yeah, there's a lot of like people who just say they believe, and I don't think they're truly, like like a lot of the people. I don't know. I've actually. Oh, sorry. There's some videos like Free Indeed on YouTube has a video about Soren Kierkegaard and how he thinks like a lot of like Christians don't, like really truly, are Christians. But I find like, yeah, like some people just go with emotions and stuff, and they, yeah.
Yeah, and he was very much had a lot of problems with the Danish church.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But by the way, we should have addressed this at the top of the video. But tell us about your YouTube channels.
Okay, so I have an older YouTube channel called Ageratos Henosis, and in the top of the background, there's a link to my newer one, which I've made and I've re-uploaded all my videos because there's I'm able to change my name and it's my main account. So from now, so they both have the links from the new to the old that you can kind of click on, and it goes from new to old and old to new. So yeah.
Okay. Well,
I really want to change my name, and I wasn't sure what to call myself, so I called Soren X. But I can always change it again.
I did a YouTube search for Soren X. I got a bunch of exercise equipment. Apparently, there's an exercise equipment manufacturer whose name is very similar to that. But yeah, I actually have the link down in the description of this video, so people can go directly there.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, Satan is not a god. I think he's just like a false kind of lesser creature that, like, I don't give him any power. Like, a lot of people like give him too much power. Like I think, I all my faith is towards God and his yeah.
Yeah, that would be worshiping the created rather than the creator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so what other things do you have written down?
Let me have a look.
He is a lot more on top of the ball than everyone else I've interviewed.
Well, there's one of the political I'll get to that. Actually, first I'll say there was a few days ago there was a power outage in Tasmania, an internet outage for a whole day. No one knew what it was at the time, and then sadly there's a lot of floods in Sydney and Queensland at the moment. So I hope everybody's safe and everything can get better. And also with the elections, there's like a few interesting parties that I could discuss. Like there's a party who wants to bring better gun policies or something, because we're very strict with guns and
Yes.
with gunpowder, and we can't export gunpowder out of Queensland so to make bullets or anything. So like, yeah, it's really weird rules. Like you can own a weapon, you can go to a gun club, you can be a member of a gun club, but it's weird. And there's like the marijuana party, don't want to legalize it, and then there's what else?
A single issue party,
That's the Greens, the Greens,
so to speak. Yes.
Yeah, and I hope they don't get many seats because a bunch. Some of them are like eco terrorists, I think. And I wrote even like some passages from like sections from the Bible that I found quite interesting, and then with China, I think I'm kind of worried if there was conflict that there would be a lot of protesters, like a lot more than like Vietnam, especially now with like cancel culture and everything.
Yeah.
It could get pretty bad, and I want things to get resolved as quick as possible, and like the more we wait, they can get more nukes and everything. So like it's kind of scary to watch it all unfold, like this whole like China thing, like
Oh yes,
and it's been like how long since the Chinese people had democracy? Well, they had a royal family before before communism came, and
like 60 years.
Yeah, so 60 years.
Yeah.
I think they deserve like proper
Well,
democracy.
okay, I have to correct myself. I think it's 60 years since Mao came into. I don't know what was there immediately before that. Yeah.
There's a lot of purges and really bad stuff the communists have done, and like that's a good talking point towards these social justice people who want to deny they ever existed. Like it's it's sad to see like how culture has just kind of a lot of like these mainstream just blindly follow these cancel culture and the companies and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's very myopic cancel culture where they have people like hyper focusing on microaggressions, literally microaggressions, which are like unconscious things that you say in speech that are oppressing people, when these people are living basically in the lap of luxury in first world countries. We're so blinded to the fact that throughout history, you just read anything about history, almost as footnotes, there are slaughters of 10,000 plus people that don't even barely even warrant to mention in readings of history. You have to go down to the footnotes to see these things, and we're so blinded to this fact that we're so what's the word I'm looking for? We're so indignant about these very minor things that we don't realize how our own emotions are being manipulated to lead us into certain movements that are allowing the things that happened in the past to happen again. People like I'll choose one thing. People always want the easiest moral victory. They always want the easiest intellectual victory. What is the easiest moral victory than just condemning your fellow citizens of being Nazis? Oh, of course, I'll take
and
that.
trying to deplatform them too. It's just gone
And
out
trying
of hand.
to deplatform them but you can't just call half of your fellow citizens these horrible things and not think it's going to unravel your entire society. It's another destabilizing factor, and it's setting up the conditions for these horrible, horrible things that happened in the past. But people don't care about that. People genuinely don't care about that. They want the easiest sanctimony they can find. They say, "Oh, I'm better than them." I voted the way the media told me to. I don't believe these ridiculous conspiracy theories. Everything these people say should be censored. And I've talked to liberals who say, "Oh, of course, I defend free speech." I said, "Well, what about David Daleiden? What about Project Veritas? What about Judicial Watch? What about all these other people?" I say, "Oh, well, the New York Times tells me those people are conspiracy theorists. The Washington Post tells me those people are white supremacists," and they have one excuse after another, one justification after another why censoring or deplatforming or unpersoning these various groups in society is somehow warranted. And of course, they're using as their ultimate authorities these, national publications that have been lying nonstop for the past 5 years. But people don't care about that. All they want is their easy sanctimony, and they want their easy sense of intellectual superiority, all of which are fraudulent.
I was born 87, and I grew up without the internet. And like nowadays, I travel on transit and I see all these people on their phones. And, like I remember a time when you're on transit and people talk to you, and now it's just not a thing anymore. It's just weird how the internet has changed society a lot. Like,
Yeah.
And interesting too. I remember even like, because I'm a gamer, consoles before they were connected to the internet. Like, and I think one of my favorites is the OG Xbox, and I didn't really use voice chat or anything. I might have used internet, but there's a lot of like games have become very like, what's the word? Political, in the sense that they're appeasing this minority of people that and that just the companies that make these games are scared to do anything to trigger them. Like that. And so what if you trigger them? Like someone should, we should speak up. And like for example, Dave Chappelle. A lot of these people are triggered by him and think he's not a comedian or something when he is. And that's what comedy is, like to trigger. That's just comedy. Like they take things too literally, and it's funny and sad to see,
Well, they're very good at mobilizing. Like I heard something, I think I was watching a quartering video or something, and he was talking about this sort of organization that was basically two people. And I can't remember the name of it, but they were very good at going to companies and saying, "Oh, by the way, you're platforming these people with these problematic beliefs." And so they were very good getting their little Twitter campaigns saying, "Oh, do you want to be associated with these people?" And so they go to every company one after another. And so basically when you see all these woke corporations or woke video game companies or Netflix or whatever, well, Netflix actually followed the profit principle. They said, "Well, we're getting money from Dave Chappelle, so we don't care what these weirdos have to say." But yeah, and they fold because they think that Twitter is reality, or that these little campaigns somehow reflect public sentiment. And unfortunately, conservatives are not really good at that, or have not been good at that. And we don't even want to play that game. We don't even want to dirty our hands playing that sort of game. But the left has been excellent at it.
And they kind of, a lot of the people in these companies are themselves like these kinds of people. So they kind of in a sense, not infiltrating, but like they're scared of their employees as well. So I don't know, like how it's sad.
Well, this is kind of how I view. Let's say that you're like the CEO of Coca-Cola or something, some world corporation. You get up in the morning, you watch a network news show. Of course, we know how that's slanted. You go to work. You might work like a 12-hour day or something. Then you go to dinner. You take a dinner with people who believe exactly as you do, and then you go to bed and you watch your late night comedians who, of course, do all their orange man bad routines, and then you go to bed. So that's all you're exposed to. People who actually are in charge, CEOs, don't have the time of going. Don't have the time you or I do to dig into independent content. I mean, I have to say, I do have a little bit of the luxury of time of actually digging in and finding different views and seeing how mainstream narratives actually contradict themselves. And so I form my own opinions based on that. When you're being spoon-fed basically what the media wants you to believe, of course you're going to believe, Trump colluded with Russia to buy Facebook ads, and there are 70 million German fanatics in the United States. What I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But
It's
yeah, I had another follow-up point.
But I find more recently I've been living in the past, watching older movies pre all this, older music. I love 80s music, and I stick with older remastered older remastered games pre all this. Like since all this happened, like I think about 2015 is when it all came ahead. Like things have been kind of, but I hope it's just a fad because I've lived through a lot, and I think eventually, hopefully, we get through this, and we'll get back on track. Like I think I hope it's just a fad.
With a renewed appreciation for our liberties and a lot of things that we took for granted, including just what we would have considered just a mediocre, generic, throwaway pop culture before. There's what Computing Forever, I think. He has another show.
He's really interesting. I like watching his stuff. He's
Yeah.
on BitChute as well.
What's that?
I think he's on BitChute as well.
Yeah.
And apparently Patreon kicked him off Patreon, so now he has to use other services for his income, which sucks.
Yeah, well, he goes back to he just watches movies like I'm so sorry, man. Like Field of Dreams. It's like he does a movie. He's not saying it's a classic or anything. He's not saying it's a classic, but it reflects a set of value. And the movie's only 30 years old. It's not that old, but it reflects a set of values from Hollywood that are so completely alien. I remember when that movie came out. I was like, yeah, it's a good movie. Maybe a little schmaltzy, but it has, all these values of family and following your dreams.
And the ambience and the characters, all this stuff that is missing today.
Yes. Yeah, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And all the when Max Colby and I started, doing live chats and deflating atheism, we saw the sort of new atheism. It came in through geek culture. It infiltrated geek culture first. I think all the social justice sort of neo-Marxism did the same thing. It came in through geek culture. Now, all these reboots of all geek culture properties from the last 6 years, from basically 2016 to the present, we're going to have to come to terms pretty soon and say we're just going to have to pretend all this stuff never existed. No, like pretty much all the Star Trek, Doctor Who, Throw that all.
Oh, Doctor Who. Oh man, that completely retconned the whole story. I mean,
Yeah.
like they chopped it up, they scrumpled it. Oh, man, I watched through the whole thing, and I can tell honestly, it's totally different. It's nothing. It's not Doctor Who. With these properties, they should just name it something differently. You know, if they're gonna ruin something, make it a new thing. Don't ruin James Bond. Don't ruin Doctor Who. There's great franchises that they. It's just.
Well, they have a purpose in doing that. They have a purpose exactly in doing that. In what Doomcock, and I have a few problems with Doomcock over what's the Overlord DVD? What's his name? I forget. So, but yeah, he's Professor Victor Van Doomcock, and he says it's destroying our modern myths. It's basically saying, oh well, if this gives you pleasure, that's there's something wrong with you. You don't deserve to be comfortable. You don't deserve your myths. You don't deserve inspiring myths. The Luke Skywalker, who was your hero when he was a kid, yeah, he renounced everything he believed in and is drinking the titty milk from a sea cow. That's what happened to him. You know, it's destroying all of that with a purpose, not accidental.
Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh man, that's something in mind. I have to think now.
John Harrison is a Doomcock fan. Ageratos, this is Rivertown Cards. Rivertown Cards is a great commenter. We should have him on sometime. Ageratos, you may like commentary on the New Testament uses of the Old Testament by G.K. Beale. It's 1,200 pages, but really interesting interaction between the Old Testament and New.
Cool. Thanks I love these recommendations. Please keep them coming. I'm trying to think. I had something like about. It's weird how these things happen. Like towards the night, I like have all these ideas, and then evening, I'm like, what was I thinking?
Well, I was talking about geek culture, and I was talking about how atheism came in through geek culture, and sort of social justice, neo-Marxism came in through geek culture. Oh, I remember. I lost track of Computing Forever. So Computing Forever is a great guy because he was Dave Cullen. He was a new atheist on YouTube, and he just examined the evidence, and so I think it makes more sense to be a Christian. I think that's actually changed his entire approach to everything, and that's honestly part of the reason I find it difficult. Well, when I started my channel, I just wanted to beat up new atheists, basically. I just wanted to say mean things about it. It's gotten a little hard because a lot of those guys ended up being good guys now, you know, have either become Christians or become more open to the idea of Christianity. But in any case, they stand up for just free speech. That's why I say if you want to call me an idiot because I'm a Christian, that's fine. I don't have any problem if you want to call me an idiot. But at least respect my right to voice my opinion. And if some atheist will stand up for my right to free speech, I'm more simpatico with them than I am with a person who believes that all speech needs to be policed. That is where the real disagreements are these days. You know, the old the old St. Augustine thing. It's, you know, the truth doesn't need to be protected. It's like a lion. It just needs to be set free. You know, the truth will protect itself. That's my attitude nowadays. Now, this is a piece. Now, internet atheists seem to consist mostly of 30-year-old virgin basement dwelling, Fallout New Vegas playing bond smoking in cells. Well, that's what it was 15 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about now. Beard fedora fetishist, but it's great. It's great making fun of the fedora.
Yeah, there's two things I don't get with atheism. That's the Big Bang and how we formed as humans. They believe we there was this cosmic soup that happened on a rock or something.
Yeah.
It's weird. That and the Big Bang as well, like how there was nothing and then there was everything. They can't really describe what happened there, you know?
Yes, everything became from nothing, and information came from non-information.
Yeah. I think to me, my beliefs are more plausible to me, but you know, everyone has their own beliefs.
I recall the thing I forgot when I was talking about the if you're the CEO of Coca-Cola, and that nowadays in like every corporation, and that's the thing about the whole communist is basically what they're advocating nowadays is like the same ideology that's being promoted by the CEOs of Coca-Cola and Nike. That's the ultimate irony, but you have to understand every major corporation nowadays has a diversity, inclusion, and equity. Well, that's actually the Jordan Peterson version. DIE. It's actually diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, and these people are usually salaried at around $250,000 a year for doing nothing. Meanwhile, you have people in there working for minimum wage. So that makes the corporate heads feel good about themselves. Oh, we're fighting for equity with our diversity, inclusion, and equity and inclusion officer who gets salaried at $250,000 a year, and that completely relieves them of any sort of commitment to the working man. And of course, the working man they probably just condemn as being a Nazi because they vote for Trump because he actually got their jobs back. So it's very easy for them to use this social justice to completely cut themselves off from any pretense of actually caring about the working class.
If I was in charge, I'd get all these people who believe in this communism ideological thing. I get them to read the Gulag Archipelago. They have to even the condensed version because it talks about all the tortures that were in communism and all the bad things that happened.
And atheists should read that too because this is all done in the superior scientifically enlightened atheistic workers' paradise of the Soviet Union. But yeah, it's what's happening now is this sort of corporate social justice. It's sort of a marriage of the corporate speak that Dilbert was making fun of in the 90s. Scott Adams was setting this up with the academic sort of identity politics, and the two have formed this unholy marriage. So I really think you have these corporate higher ups who just want to get like the most radical person they can to lecture their workers while they go out and play like a round of golf. So they get of course they're still using these kind of phones, but they're like, oh well, let's get the most radical person, Ibram Kendi. Yeah, let's get him and tell all the white people that they're evil because of the color of their skin, and just book him, and they're out for a round of golf because they've done their part because they've hired the most radical person. And so the more radical they are, the more virtuous they are, the more they tell you that you're crap. That's for self-flagellating white people. That is the greatest virtue.
Have you, Paul Joseph Watson on YouTube?
Of course, I know Paul.
I've recently followed him. It's very interesting, and he did a video on like these ads that like totally like trying to squash out, middle-aged white men, and I take it so it's so wrong. Like some of these ads, like it's I would say racist, but how can I say that?
Yeah,
because I can't accuse anyone because to them,
Well, I remember PSA ads. It's like advocating no child policies. The people in the ads are always white. Whereas there are always token inclusions of all races in every other ads. When you have ads for not having children,
And I think, I got to play into this. Since coronavirus started, we shouldn't forget those whose lives were ruined and lost due to this. Especially, I think suicide is
Mhm.
very, like how many people have succumbed to like the way things are is totally different than the way things used to be, like 30 years ago, for example. um, Things can change in a very short amount of time, and I think even Paul Joseph Watson did a video about why a lot of this, according to statistics, white middle-aged men are affected the most,
Mhm.
and all these ads and all this politicalized movies and stuff, they just make it worse. And
Yeah, and I mean, there's been uh, so much death that was unnecessary, far greater, especially for young people, far greater than the deaths that have been prevented by policies.
and the dumbing down of the family, like the like by these people, it's just
Yeah.
you know have a family, it's so easy to break up now. Like it's just, yeah, it's just a shame.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are so many people who had their grandparents or their parents in hospitals or something. They were not allowed to visit them. They died alone. There's gonna have to, assuming there will be some form of earthly justice. It is going to be a tsunami.
Yeah.
I Who knows? I might be a casualty myself. Who knows?
No,
But
I don't think we are.
but yeah, there's going to have to be such an accounting.
Yeah.
Uh, because I mean, you just hear about all these people. They were not allowed medical access. Their families were not allowed to visit them. No, none of those get counted, but then these other people do get counted, and I don't know. I don't know. Deaths of despair. Yeah.
Oh, what was I gonna say? Something about families? No. um I had another thing, but yeah, it's probably a little so.
Yeah.
um
Now I'm trying to remember what I had another thing I wanted to say. But yeah, it's just this completely arbitrary policy. Just see if people go along. People don't have any choice. And oh yes, so yeah, so this is another thing you could throw at all your communist friends, because they support these politicians. They support these policies. And in America, they were talking about, oh well, obviously, anyone who doesn't get the jab, gets fired from their job. That's happened a lot. Uh, in New York, they're actually talking about public works employees who get fired uh, for not getting. Not only get fired, they have their pensions cut off. Wait, I
that's
thought you guys.
crazy.
I thought you
Yeah.
guys were the supporters of labor. I thought you guys were pro union. Now you're supporting cutting off the pensions of people who refuse to get the jab. And uh, military, I think they advocated giving them dishonorable discharges from the military. It just went on and on. Oh yes, refusing to give people life saving medical surgeries or medical treatments for their refusal to get the jab. Oh wait. So I thought you guys believe in universal health care. Now you're refusing to give people the health care that they're already paying for. And I'm sure if you were to speak to some sort of leftist or something, they'd have some sort of excuse for all of this stuff. They have no principles. They are completely without excuse.
That's when it gets scary, because in Australia we have universal healthcare and we have like lots of pensioners, but things could go like to the extremes with the government when they could take that away easily. and then what are those people gonna do? You know, there's no option for them. You know, how are they gonna live? You know, it's very, it can get into that territory very quickly, and that's scary stuff. And
Yeah.
it's going.
And so, like in America, of course, we now have people. Well, we saw it in Canada where they froze people's bank accounts for having the wrong opinions, and
That's crazy.
we
It's
now
just
have
no. Let's see.
what we have is a new appreciation. What Trotsky said is that when the state controls the means of production, to dissent is to starve. And I think people are coming to terms with the true threat of having the government be responsible for your livelihoods, because whenever you have a thought, a belief that's incompatible with the regime in power, they have the ability to turn off the spigot. So it goes with healthcare. Government run healthcare. We don't like what you believe, we'll cut off your healthcare. It goes with the UBI. Boy, so many people think that UBI is such a great idea. Oh, well, in fact, that was the lesson a lot of very stupid people took from the lockdowns when they gave us those $1,400 checks. Oh, well, the government has the ability to be giving us checks all the time because these people have no idea how things work. Well, now if you're relying on UBI to survive, and you have no ability to get a job in the private sector in an emergency, all they have to do is threaten to turn off the money supply, and they could remove your ability to express a dissenting opinion. It's completely in their heads. So I don't know. It's such a complete dereliction on the part of the left that they now advocate all these things that would destroy people's ability to dissent and to protest.
There was a law that passed in Australia a few months ago. I read it and I was like, it was on Count Dankula's news channel, his second channel. He talked about this law. It's basically, it gives the police officers the right to go into someone's Facebook account or any like social media account and post. So that, like, if I'm like get accused of anything online, I know who to blame.
Wow.
Because that's scary. That's just, yeah. It's probably just for opposition, like drug dealers or, like, but like, I mean, like, it could be used for anything down the line, and that's very scary. Like, I think
know.
it just passed straight away, and no one in Parliament said anything. Like, yeah, that's. I hope. I haven't really looked into it since, but yeah.
Well, I know Reddit goes in and edits people's posts a lot of times. That's why I think the best course of action, until you get some true pro liberty social media platforms up and running, get off Facebook, get off Twitter. I use YouTube out of necessity. I think YouTube, as far as the big social media platforms, is probably the least bad, but there is a very much a thriving conservative pro-freedom community on YouTube. And I think YouTube realizes they can't really cut it off, because they realize now it's not like everyone who's watching these conservative YouTube channels, which is a lot of times people just recording themselves in their garage. That's all it is. But it's not like those people are then going to go to CNN. I mean, all those establishment media outlets have had their ratings going to a gutter for years and years. So I think YouTube recognizes that they have to keep the community aspect simply as a economic survival, because they'd be cutting off a huge source of revenue by completely clamping down on these sort of independent creators.
It's so easily to get an account banned. It's so easy now with all this, like, leftist you know, like accusationary stuff, and so that's why I welcome these new platforms, and I want to sign up for the Truth Social.
Yes, truth.
But
So
yeah, it's not up in my region just yet, but I will. Um, what's the other thing?
get
It's also hard to get off some, because then how, like some like Telegram and stuff, then, some people would lose the access to their family or friends. But that's another thing that, it's hard for some people to lose that connection. But I think these companies, some of them are just making really bad decisions, and also the prime minister, one of his social media got hacked by China recently. That's the thing. I think it's WeChat or something. I think it's a Chinese app he got when he went overseas or something, and then he got hacked or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a troubling sign. Yeah, I mean, I could only advocate people definitely get off, try to get off Facebook and Twitter, and of course, Facebook had the biggest stock loss ever
The
in
Meta thing.
market history.
Yeah.
So,
How much billions of dollars have they put into that?
well, yeah, I mean, not maybe as a percentage of their net worth, it was not the biggest or even nearly the biggest stock loss in stock market history, but it was huge. It was huge. So that shows you that in their parabola, they're definitely on the far side of the parabola. So they're going to be falling at a far greater rate after this, and what's all this meta stuff? It seems like a move of desperation. I haven't heard any good thing about Meta. I have no interest in Meta.
Yeah, me neither.
I own some Meta tokens. That's the only thing. That's my only investment in it. Yeah, I don't even understand it. Yes, John Harrison says if Donald Trump gets his own social media platform, I am so there. Well, get on the waiting list for Truth Social. Have you seen the meme? It has the Beetlejuice scene where it says now serving number 140,000, and he looks at his number, it's like number 3. No, his number is like 140,000, and they're calling up number 3. Yeah, I like Rumble shows some promise. BitChute is pro free speech, but the comment section had become toxic. There's actually deflating atheism BitChute that I started uploading stuff and I haven't finished because I've been having some technical problems.
I'd subscribe to you. I'll actually do that after this.
Oh, well,
I've got a BitChute account.
I'll accept it as an act of charity because I think my videos there have like 6 views. So thank you. Like I haven't pursued anything. I haven't been doing anything this past year. Honestly, I've been working on my own personal projects. So until
time has been going really quickly. Like at times, like time has been flying by. Like like the weeks and everything.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's been a good time to sort of get into your personal projects. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be a time of renaissance since people
that'd be cool.
Work on their own things and reevaluate their lives. That's what I hope.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, when there's actually an alternate social media platform that has a genuine community, not this. Something like what they have on YouTube now. Genuine community of people following people from one channel to another, and it's established. Then I'll get into it. I've never been an early adopter in my entire life.
Yeah, so. I've tried a bit of Getter. It seems like a promising, but I think Truth will hopefully be my kind of go-to. Hopefully, when that comes out.
And like there's sort of the question with all of these things. It's what sort of social media platform is it? Because like right now, I don't have any personal social media where I am Rob. You know, I just whatever accounts I have now, I'm deflating atheism. So it's going to be a long time before I find a social media platform where I can be Rob and communicate to the world like that. But right now, I'm just
It's scary how all these major ones are kind of trying to be interconnected. Like, for example, Twitch. You can link your YouTube, and then with other YouTube, you can link your other channels, and then it's all kind of interconnected, and that's kind of scary as well. Like, if one of them decides to ban you, then
yeah,
other ones might do the same, and that's I really I'm against that because I'm for free speech. And
yeah, and it doesn't matter if you've dedicated you know days and days worth of your life, to building up your channel. They can delete it in the blink of an eye. That was something YouTube, I mean, something Facebook does. People buy ads on Facebook. People buy tens of thousands of dollars worth of ads to promote their page on Facebook, and then Facebook deletes it. That should be some sort of a breach of contract. That should be a matter for tort law. Is Facebook deleting pages that people paid tens of thousands of dollars to promote. And you
and
see,
if you're ad blocked, then you don't see anyway. So that's another thing they should try to fix as well.
yeah. Well, who's been a big victim of Facebook policy is actually all those left wing publications that for years had orange mad bad rage bait headlines for basically 2016 to 2019 or something. Facebook decided we don't want to carry content that's going to take people off site. So all this Vox and BuzzFeed and Huffington Post and all those kind of things, now they're all in the gutter. Now they're being sold for pennies on the dollar because Facebook decided we don't want to promote posts that will take people off site. And that was their entire business model was people sharing their links on Facebook. So that's actually a good thing where the leftists destroyed the other leftists. Now you have to if and when Trump rises again, uh, he's going to have a whole lot because all the BuzzFeeds and Voxes and Huffington Post and salons, they're going to be irrelevant. CNN and MSNBC, they're going to be irrelevant. I don't know if you heard, CNN has new ownership, and like the guy at Discovery who bought it is actually a Trump supporter, and all their two of their producers got a little too friendly with underage girls, if you know what I mean, and a handful of others have some sort of sex scandal. So now, and one guy is suing the other two for knowing about the affair. They tried to fire him and not pay him his contract, and so now they're all fighting each other, and it's just gorgeous. It's just beautiful, So
Sorry.
no, so the ones who are remaining are probably going to get fired too. So that's beautiful. It's like it's basically it's a morality tale, or the ill-gotten goods all just turned to dung at the end of the story.
I remembered what I was going to say. So I just want to make it clear again. I don't follow Ukraine. I don't follow Russia. But I have to say, Putin mentioned a while ago that this social justice is destroying the West, and I have to agree with him on that. And not many leaders would speak up against that, And then, secondly, I know I've been through this before, and I want to thank Trump because he saved our internet, even from our own government, because our own government wanted to do the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Yes, I was going to say the TV. Yes.
Yeah, and Trump was against that and saved our internet. So that's another thing I'm truly thankful for Trump for doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's done a lot of good things, and all these kinds of, social justice want to ignore all the good things. Like they can't accept that like our society is probably the best it can ever be, but they don't look at like other societies like communist China and how bad it is there. They just want to say, oh, oppression, oppression, and they themselves are oppressives.
well, that's the grand irony of social justice is that it's the most parochial, Eurocentric worldview there is because they cannot see outside of their own societies. They have no idea of all the atrocities committed throughout history by people of all races. There, the whole everything that happens, everything bad that happens in the world is because of white people is the most white idea in the world. Only white people have that idea, and so it is very much a very parochial idea. Yeah, and I also like Xi Jinping outlawed feminism. He doesn't.
What's this Winnie the Pooh meme? Like his offended like
It,
Xia Ping. I don't get that. Why
just,
he's offended by that?
I think it's just something that stuck. It's something some person says sometime, and it just stuck.
It
Yeah.
was like actually someone put it in a, I think it's a Taiwanese video game. He put like a little hidden Easter egg with Winnie the Pooh,
Oh,
and then someone found it on Steam, and there was this huge backlash, of these Chinese people rating the game bad because of it. It's just one crazy. But now that video game producer is selling the game on its own website because Steam kicked it off or something. I haven't checked recently, but yeah, I forget what the company was called. But yeah, that's crazy that can happen. Like you put all these hours into making a product and just for cancel culture to basically get rid of your product.
yeah, yeah. That's another concerning thing is how these social media companies are so eager to ban anything that's critical of China or says something that would displease Chinese authorities. Arguably, like at the very dawn of social media, that was actually you had all this like anti-Islamophobia censorship where people were completely a very liberal reading of what Islamophobia is. That's because that was the new market was the Middle East, and so anything.
Oh, after 9/11. I
Yeah, well,
remember that.
after a little
And
after 9/11, because this was like at the dawn of
the
social media.
war.
Yeah,
I remember like trying to talk to people about politics during that time, and I get the same response now. It's just this. What's the word?
NPC.
Yeah, but they're like don't want to like apathetic. That's the word.
Oh,
Like they just don't want to. That makes me really depressed. That something that affects everyone is not being talked about. Like yeah,
yeah.
a lot of people like NPCs don't care about what's happening. Like they're just like going along, and it's sad to see. Like and everyone on the fringes like me are like labeled or whatever, and we have at least we have individuality.
Yes, yes. Well, it's like okay, does does the mainstream media narrative about everything that's happened in the last 2 years make any sense at all? I mean, I really think people have to be in denial or something. And I think it's true they have been overloaded. It's the shock doctrine in effect. Just overload people with hysteria, and they'll accept pretty much anything. But yeah, what you were talking about NDEs before, and some one of the Prophet guys, Timothy Dixon. I actually watch a lot of his videos sometimes. He said this is the near death experience for America. Obviously, he's talking about America. He's an American, so he talks about American politics mostly. But he said this this is the near-death experience for America. What happens after a near-death experience? A lot of times you have a
Self-reflection.
self-reflection and hopefully a newfound appreciation for life. You know,
Yeah.
and so hopefully that's what will happen to America, is that this will be a near-death experience on the national level. Yeah, I think people are taking things seriously again. I mean, like this guy Salty Cracker on YouTube. He says a few years ago, I just wanted to play video games and smoke pot. That was my life. Nowadays, he's defending his nation basically. You know, he's you know, combating anti-American narratives, and he's wildly successful. So that's
Good on him.
part of the, you know, pleasures of the last 2 years is that you actually get to see some people get better. You get to see some people rise to the challenge. You know, other people get demoralized and get apathetic, but other people, you know, rise to the challenge. We're seeing these everyday heroes where we never saw them before.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's important to stand up for your beliefs, and even yeah, I'm a very shy person and I tend to be a bit of a recluse, but I can sense things were going bad, and I really want to, you know, speak up on these issues, because like, and especially with like the elections coming, you know, like hopefully Australians can see, you know, these social justice is just these things happening is just not on. And yeah,
but asking around to people, whatever, people on the street, like I go around asking people on the street. But what you've gauged of public sentiment does not give you a cause for hope.
there's a YouTuber, I think I forget his name now, maybe a person in the chat as well, is ex-communist, so someone who survived communism, and he goes around to people and he talks to them about why communism is bad on the street.
Okay.
That is like full on, like really, I don't know how I could do that, like talk to someone on the street with my kind of anxiety, but like that is like a warrior through and through, like, you know,
Yeah.
like I like to be faced off like directly against these kinds of people, I'm kind of scared of, but you know, like it needs to be done. And I hope, especially people like in companies and CEOs, can kind of be more aware of where this comes from and speak up on, you know, why this is bad.
Yeah, there. Assuming, I guess you've been following sort of the new atheism thing on YouTube. They had sort of a trend a few years ago. It was called street epistemology, and so you'd have like a guy like you know, basically posted up at the entrance to a hiking trail or something, and he'd just start talking to people about religion, and of course he tried to, you know, disabuse people of their religious beliefs. And so you had dozens of people. Actually, it was Peter Boghossian. I think he tried to have like the 10,000 street epistemologists. And I think of all of that, they only got one person to renounce their faith. So it wasn't a very successful project, and they never got their 10,000 street epistemologists. But I almost think that would be much better applied to people who believe these media narratives, these leftist media narratives, is to say why do you believe what you believe? And I think always the best question to lead off with is it possible you're wrong about anything? Because I think people seem to operate from the assumptions that it's impossible for them to be in error about anything. That their you know, impressions of people or their sort of categorizations of people are somehow infallible. And so, like, say, you know, Trump is a racist. Why do you believe that? Okay, is it possible you're wrong? Well, of course it's possible, Roy. Okay, so let's get into that. And I think that would be a much more productive discussion because I think those are the true unexamined beliefs of our time, not people's religious beliefs. I actually think people's religious beliefs are pretty well examined.
It's like in movies how like it's it's the total opposite. Like in like a lot of movies, like or TV shows, it's easy to change someone's opinions. But in
Yes,
real life, it's the total opposite. And I wish it was easier to like to point out why this socialism ideology is bad.
it's funny you mentioned. I always say the joke is reality TV shows. The way you know that reality TV shows aren't reality is that people have discussions and things change. It's like
Yeah.
I was having a disagreement with Bob here, but we sat down to discuss things, and I think we arrived at a new understanding. It's like that never happens in real life. This talking never solves anything in real life. But yes, we have a Getter by the CEO of Getter was exposed. Greetings from the U.S. Clark and Daw brought me here. This is once blind now sees. Yes, some of us are trying to heal and help. Very good. Once blind now sees. Good to see you here. So yeah, I really think that people have a newfound appreciation for the liberties we took for granted, and will be a little more invested in trying to protect them, and not just assuming that our comfortable little middle class lives where we're free to say what we want to say, whatever we want to say, that those are just somehow self-sustaining. No, they're not self-sustaining. Nothing about the liberties we enjoy or the lives we enjoy is self-sustaining.
I volunteer a day each week at a record shop. It's really fun. The boss is really nice. It's good when you have like a job that you like doing,
Yeah.
like, and yeah, it's harder to find nowadays. But like, I hope I can find another job as well, hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a live stream where me, you, and Wicked Felina compare our record collections because I have some obscurities that I think
Cool.
would beat any obscurity that you guys have.
I like this colored vinyl as well. They look really awesome.
Yes.
I've got like two. I think I got a white one and a blue one, I think.
Yeah, well, that's the new thing for the recent presses, and they do it all on 180 gram vinyl, and they have like the special editions. I haven't really gotten too into that. I have the Prince Purple Rain, where it actually has the Purple Rain cover.
Oh, nice.
Vinyl, but that's like
They have picture discs too, don't they?
Yeah. I could show
cool.
you. I could show you. I'll have to turn off my camera. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah. So like the lyrics in this is an example. There's like lyrics all over the page and they're like full print too. Like that's one of the things these kind of what got me onto record collection is like the art is huge. And usually you have like lyrics all over inside. It's just it's a fun hobby.
Yeah, I actually don't listen to these as much as I should, but yeah, there's
Awesome. Yeah, I actually gave away one of my record players and got a new one. It's a Audio Technica, and it's like self-loading. And you press one button, it goes up, and you can select any kind of track you want. And it's also got like a USB, so I can transfer the music, which is cool.
Okay, well that's like a direct drive, so that's like a DJ's turntable.
That was my first one. Oh, There was a new mark TT USB. That's the one that was like, it didn't have a cover, so it was like very much like it looked like a
Yeah.
DJ one. The Masic one it's got a dust cover and it looks a bit more cooler, I think.
Yeah, I got this one over here. It's actually
Cool.
pretty nice. I bought it. I haven't gotten a whole lot of use out of it, but yeah, it's actually it's so nice. Now I need to upgrade everything else. I can't have these.
I've got a small speaker set. I got a my room is really tiny, so I have to like sometimes I play and that I have to like I got neighbors like beyond the wall, so I have
Yeah,
to be mindful. But
that's a problem here too. I used to play music, and people would come up from downstairs and say, "Turn it down," especially when it has bass. You know, the bass just goes through the walls. But yeah, I need to upgrade everything else, but I'm waiting for my crypto ship to come in. I'm not making many too discretionary purchases these days.
I want to promote your shop. On just now, I bought a T-shirt from your shop, so like, you've got a good selection of wares to for anyone interested on watching.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. So
I got a baseball shirt. It looks really cool.
It hasn't
I
arrived.
just ordered. No, I just ordered it like last night or something.
Thank you so much. There's not too many out there, but thank you for promoting it. And this is another thing about YouTube is that like if I had like 10,000 subscribers, I could have that right underneath my YouTube videos, but I don't, so I can't. I don't think I'll ever have 10,000 subscribers.
If someone leaves your subscriber, does that count, or you need like a set 10,000 at one point, or
what's that?
Like if you have like 10,000 and one person leaves, does that still count, or like do you need like over 10,000?
that would be really cruel. Just tease you with it. Just here you have that ability, now you don't. Yeah,
you definitely deserve it. I really like your work.
Thank you, man. I feel bad, and I felt a little confused. Honestly, the past 2 years.
It's like I slept for 2 years. I had like like that image you have there. Like I'm like, what? It's like 2019 sleep. 2020.
Oh yeah. That was actually it actually reminds me of the thumbnail to this video. But yeah. Like I hate to say like 2020. Like my father passed away in 2019, and then 6 months later the lockdown started. So it sounds bad to say this. 2020 was actually like a really good year for me,
Yeah.
because I really got into my own projects. It was actually very productive for me. So it was really a sort of a banner year for me, I think. 2021 has been a wipeout. I think I've been so demoralized by the Biden presidency. It's been a real gut punch. But so I haven't really done much with 2021. But
in the last few years, I lost my grandma and my father too.
Oh,
but yeah, they were overseas, so I didn't really have much contact with them. But I did visit them like in 2015, I think. So, and my brother went since, but he missed on meeting my father, which kind of he was kicking himself for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure it
happened a lot during COVID. It happened a lot during COVID. Yeah. So what is your if you don't mind talking about it, what is your heritage, if it's Eastern European?
Yeah, it's Czech and Slovak Republic.
Okay.
But there's a lot of like in that region, like there's a lot of like Russians, Germans, Ukrainians, living around there, and they have different dialects.
Mhm.
So you could there's Moravian, there's Czech and Slovak, and it's all like around there. Like yeah, even like in different regions, they have different like cues. Like I tried learning a bit. I was living there for about a year when I was 10. No,
So it's kind of like
four or something
Switzerland.
when I was really young. I
It's
was
like
really young.
Switzerland where you have all the people of the surrounding nations sort of
Mm.
swirling
And
around.
yeah, and I lived there when I was really young, and then we moved to where I am now, and I've kind of lost touch of that
Mhm.
language. And I tried to make like a phrase book when I went again in 2015, which was really cool. Like going back to the old country, seeing my family. I could say some words, but like speaking sentences was another thing. I think there
Yeah,
was phrase apps at the time where you can enter the word, the sentences, and it says it for you. But also, like I felt like a baby too, because like I didn't understand a word that I was
mm,
saying sometimes, and I was like, but it was very supportive environment because like all my uncles, all my cousins, all my aunties, all live around there.
yeah, yeah. So,
The only people living here is my one of my parents, my brother and his son and his girlfriend. So it's like we have a very close like family in Australia compared to overseas, you know.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, well, that's kind of like my living situation. I'm here in North Carolina, and I have basically within walking distance of my apartment, I have my sister and my mom, but we're basically the only family people in North Carolina. And I have cousins. I've never met any of my cousins. Like they're all
Yeah,
around the East Coast. I've never met any of them.
I've
But
I've had I think there may even be cousins that I don't know about, especially on my father's side, because he doesn't talk about his other relationships or
mhm,
children when he was alive. And also, um, speaking of my family history, my grandpa had a quarrel with his brother. There were three brothers. The first one, I've got a book here, was a teacher, and the Nazis called him. He was involved with the black radios, like talking out, and they called him, killed him, and is probably in an unmarked grave. So I went to look online to see where his tribute was, and yeah. Also, the second brother that had the quarrel with my grandpa, he was caught, rounded up by the when communism came. He had a group. They were accused of killing a secret police or something, and none of them ratted each other out because they probably didn't do it.
yeah,
And then he was in gulags for since the end of since democracy came, and his there's actually a website with him speaking up against communism.
mhm,
He passed away a few years ago, but I would have loved a chance to meet him. He'd be before he entered the gulags. He had like normal hair. When he left, he had like white hair. Like
yes,
yeah, and it's like yeah, that's another thing because like when you have first-hand experience or in the family of these like communism, like that really affects and
mhm,
all of Czech and Slovak had to learn Russian during communism, so they had to learn the languages, a lot of different languages, and now like they're allowed to study any language.
yeah, yeah. I guess a lot of them still use the Cyrillic alphabet though. That's what they've held on to. There was like an urban exploration YouTuber I've seen that actually went and an English guy. I think he was a British guy, and he went to some of the gulags that you could still go and visit them. In Russia or maybe Ukraine. and yeah, he sees what it's like and what a lot of Westerners never see or never think about.
I've I've been looking into this documentary about Andy Warhol. I think his parents were in Czech or something, and I find some of his life fascinating, like how he was shot
Yeah,
and how he was in hospital and he thought he was dead, and he saw that JFK's brother, on TV, how he died, and he all this stuff was happening around him, and yeah, it must have been really bad.
oh, well, what was
And
that? Jeff K's brother?
was I think that Robert,
Oh, JFK's brother. Okay, okay.
yeah, it was in TV when he was going for elections. Anyway, what's he gonna say? Yeah, I think they're making a movie about him with Jared Leto or something. I hope it's good.
That's
But
hardly
that
a
hasn't.
deal of quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen any other movies just about him, but like he was shot by a feminist, and yeah, it's like really hardcore one that was against men, and it was
The
like
Scum Manifesto. The
yeah,
Scum
that's it.
Manifesto.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was the movie. I've never seen it. I've heard about the I Shot Andy Warhol, and she gives him what the Scum Manifesto, and she gives it to him to read. It's like, yeah, it's all very evenly spaced. It's like that was what he took away from the Scum Manifesto.
I can't watch that movie, but I watched Factory Girl, which was about that the lady that was involved, and then Bob Dylan. That schism
Yeah,
between Bob Dylan and him.
I can't
But
remember her name.
yeah,
Sedgwick.
he
Yeah,
just
Edie
yeah,
Sedgwick. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, it's sad. But yeah, I liked how
and there's
the
that
actor that played
lyric.
him. He almost at the end he was really sad, but he didn't want to show it.
What was that?
At the end of the movie, like the actor that plays him, I think it's Australian too. I forget the actor.
Was
His
it? Wait,
friend
it wasn't
here.
David Bowie. I know David Bowie was in the Basquiat movie. David Bowie was Andy Warhol.
No, no. What's his name? Hang on, I'm just gonna Google it.
But yeah, there was what's the line in like a Rolling
Guy
Stone?
Pearce.
What's that?
Guy Pearce played him. I think he did a good performance for the little scenes he was in. Like towards the end, he was like, I think I saw some kind of sadness, after she passed,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's yeah. He tried to keep it, under his persona, try to
yeah. I was thinking of the line in like a Rolling Stone where he says after he took from you every penny he could steal, and that was a line that was directed at
Oh yeah,
Warhol
yeah.
because Andy Warhol just went through her entire trust fund,
Mm.
which I think it took him about like 2 months to go through her entire trust fund. But well,
There's a lot of people in history like I really attuned to, like tragic kind of people, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, a lot of people were jerks, but I mean, you have to see what's good about them. You have to see what's redeemable about them.
Yeah, because we're all human, and some of us make mistakes and more than others, and yeah, we all kind of yeah have some kind of redeemable factors. It's somewhere deep inside of our soul. Like I think, I hope anyway that we all can make it to heaven. Like
Yes,
even if we have to be, re-educated in a sense that we have done lots of wrong.
God puts us into the re-education camps.
Or there's another word for it, like I forget. It's like not rehabilitation. It's like a more correction, like to
Like
correct.
purified.
Yeah, yeah, purify, yeah.
Yeah, but you never really. We don't need to get into it at length.
But there's even people that don't believe in any kind of, you know, any kind of correction. You know, there's some Christian Universalists, I mean, that don't believe in any of that. But you know, I think there's some really evil people that, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think some of them are in power right now. I'd say that's what I said to David McMurdo. I was like, I used to think like an eternity of torture was a little excessive. Now I'm like, yeah, eternity sounds about right. It really hits that sweet spot. I think an eternity of torture is just about right. But what you never really, we don't need to get in depth about this, but just basically your sort of gloss of what's going on in Australia, because once blind, now sees, says, I heard things are pretty bad in Australia. Is that true? And then P says, there's another YouTuber I follow who lives in Perth. According to him, at least, most of the trouble is happening on the East Coast. Western Australia has kind of slipped under the radar, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of floods at the moment in Queensland and Sydney, and yeah, I feel kind of sorry for those affected.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm not around there, I'm more in the middle part, bottom part. But yeah, I see that it's we have all kinds of like bad events happening. You know, there was the fires a few years ago, and now like
yeah.
Just I hope it doesn't get too bad, but I'm not around Sydney or Brisbane to kind of check on what's happening there. Lots of people here are wearing masks, like I said, but like I think in Sydney now they're taking that away, which is good.
Yeah, well, it's because it goes back to what we were talking about before. I think they want to move on to new narratives, and they never really got what they want. They never,
especially because election day is coming up.
Just like in America, yeah. And they never really got what they wanted. Now we've been hearing things about detention centers, basically concentration camps in Australia, but that's a very localized thing.
Yeah, I think Melbourne had it really bad. That they're pretty close to us. We had only 2 quarantines, I think. So we haven't had it too bad, as bad as Queensland and New Zealand. That New Zealand Prime Minister, she's something. I just, oh man, I feel bad for them too.
Well, she puts it all on the table. She says she wants a 2-tier society, the compliant to the non.
Yeah, that's. I was going to actually mention that. That's really full on. Like that's really.
Yes.
Not many people are talking about that, and yeah, very distressing.
Yeah, but again, like in Australia, you don't have that one person at the top who's sort of setting all policy. It's all provincial, basically.
At times, we've got a state leader, and we've got a federal leader, like prime minister, and he's in Parliament House in Canberra, and and then we'll have guys for each state as well. I remember, because each state, like for example, prostitution is legal in Queensland, and so some drugs more so there. In my region, some games are actually banned because of our premier. I think they call him premier of each state, and he was like Jack Thompson, who was a notable lawyer in the States who was against like GTA and tried to ban it and everything. But he's gone. He's been gone for like 10 years. Lots of people didn't like him. There's even, I think, a political party called for that.
So can you still not play Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah, we can. We've got the R rating section now. which is good because before we only had MA15, and that was the and they thought games were just for kids, and they were banning a lot of games until we
Yeah.
got the R18 section rating, which is I'm thankful for, because there'll be a lot more games banned now just because of the rating system.
Yeah, and P says, I think I heard something about the Canadians building gulags as well. I don't think they're going to have a chance to. I think they've run out of gas, so to speak. I think Uncle Klaus is a little embarrassed about his the children that he taught at his knee, and I think it's all become a bit of an embarrassment. But I think it's been a stress test. They see how
Yeah,
the populace
the
really.
government's getting a hard on these powers and seeing how far they can push it.
Yeah. Now the question is, when they try to do this again, will people fold more quickly, or will they be more resistant? I think they're going to be more resistant.
Yeah. But yeah, and yeah, there's been like a event in, when we had the carriers around Taiwan, a Chinese jet flew over one of the Australians, and was it an Australian jet flew over around Taiwan, and some military Chinese vessel pointed a military grade laser at it.
Wow.
So that was one of the that was in the news for a little bit, but everyone seemed to have forgotten about it and thinking about Ukraine now. Yeah,
I think America was going to do some ICBM tests, and we wisely something wise coming from the Biden's military for once.
I hope Trump can be re-elected so that because China was really only scared of him, and I think they got Biden in their pocket. So, that I hope the Chinese people can live under democracy, because they had some really bad protests where the government clamped down on them, especially Tiananmen Square back in '89, and the pro-democracy ones more recently.
Right before COVID, yeah.
And yeah, I'm also suspicious of the origins of the.
We're gonna do it all. We're gonna do it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I think we know what you're saying. I think we all know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, what's funny is without going into it, there are things that people say out loud nowadays. People say freely on YouTube that they would have gotten banned for saying a year and a half ago. So yeah, there's going to be such a reckoning. And people are going to hold on to their delusions for as long as they can with white knuckles. They don't want to realize how bad things are. They don't want to talk about a certain day in the first month of 2021 when they find out what's gone on. Then it is horrible beyond belief. People are not going to want to believe. People are not going to want to hear what happened. People are not going to want to have to come to grips with it. But yeah,
I actually kind of hazily remember flying on an airplane before 9/11 and after the security, and things might change very differently until we resolve it. It might get bad, but I think we'll wake up and we'll see that these new laws or whatever are bad. So
yeah. Well, like I said, the COVID laws were never the end goal. The end goal was always to get it into a climate passport, get into a social credit system. That was going to roll over into our everything passport, our digital IDs.
I recommend people Look into social credit score in China. It's really freaky. They can ban anyone for any kind of minor infraction from traveling, from getting, lots of these things we take for granted, and it's shocking. Like I think, yeah. Anyway, I I hope they get democracy, and as I say,
Well, yeah, I hope a Christianized democratic China would be a tremendous blessing. That would be a tremendous blessing. We had our own social credit. I mean, the first real volley of the American social credit system was when they threatened to remove banking services from the senators who refused to impeach Donald Trump. That's okay. You're guilty of, because they use this whole thing, the insurrection. Of course, no one has ever been indicted for insurrection. No one has even been charged for insurrection. But they decided guilt. It's because these ESG ratings operate exactly like Antifa. They're judge, jury, and executioner. If we decide you're guilty, you are guilty. So they decide. What's that?
They kind of these leftists jump from BLM to Antifa to following the mandates, and now it's Ukraine. It's weird. Like it's always some kind of theme.
Yes, and they never recognize their own inconsistencies. They jump from one thing to another, and they'll be 180 degrees with what they were saying a few months prior.
I also wanted to bring up, during Vietnam and the Korean War, I've heard that China actually supplied them with arms.
Yeah, it was a proxy war. It was a proxy war.
So
yeah,
that's something to note. Like that they're guilty for a lot of those deaths and stuff. So yeah, again, I'm kind of worried about if there was a conflict, the people protesting, like it could get into riots or whatever over trying to fix China system, and these leftists will, they don't understand how bad the CCP are.
I mean that's been the case for a long time. I like what's common knowledge now is that the protest folk singer scene of the 1960s was basically funded by the Communist Party in the Soviet Union. There was a money line that went to singers like Woody Guthrie.
There was a KGB agent that talked about infiltrating the West or something in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's very that's very telling for today's society. Like,
that's just basically demoralizing the populace, which is really a satanic agenda. You can't use any other word to call it a satanic antichrist agenda.
There was a defense minister in China called Chi Haotian. In 2005, he did a speech, and he talked about how they can infiltrate the West and how they want to and it just sounds crazy, just like full on.
Well, they have.
That's the thing.
And we see it in every way. It's like what is it, like jujitsu? I don't know what the term is. It's like if you try to like punch someone and they grab your wrist and they twist it around and now they've got you. It's like we thought was offensive. We were going to put American capitalism into China, and they grabbed that and used it to twist us into Chinese style communism.
Yeah, and maybe we were too open, or I don't know what happened. We weren't too we should have been a bit more aware of the whole situation. Instead, a lot of companies also jumped to China for their productivity, and now things are
This is why I'm not a libertarian, and I think libertarians can be just as deluded as communists, because they don't understand that you have to have some sort of protectionism when you're dealing with because the hardcore libertarians don't really believe in borders at all. So they have no they don't see any problem with having all of America's steel production overseas when that could be a national security issue. And of course, they were all against Trump's tariffs, and it's completely ridiculous. So I think libertarians are basically like reverse Marxists, Well, Wolves do apologetics, and can I hop on? I put the StreamYard link on, but we've been going for 2.5 hours, so I'm maybe we should be wrapping it up.
Okay. Yep.
Is there anything else you wrote down?
No, that's it. That's all my guns fired. Thank you very much. All the best to you and the viewers.
Okay. Well, yeah. Tell us again about your YouTube channels.
Okay, so I've got an older channel called Ageratos Henosis, and a new one that I've just re-uploaded some of my material to, called Soren X. I might change that, but in the top banner, there's a link to both of them that kind of switch around from old to new and new to old. If anyone wants to follow it, mostly just funny gaming clips I record, but I'm hoping to post some more material.
Yes. Well, I'll just say every piece says every acquisition of power is preceded by a pretext. Kind of makes you wonder if maybe 1621 was, yeah, it was a Reichstag fire. That's what it was. We should have never opened trade relations with the PRC. It seems like we created a monster by doing so. I blame Nixon. And peace gives us the peace sign. So with that, I want to thank Ageratos Henosis. You've been awesome.
Thank you.
We could do another discussion with Felina and
Fantastic
and some other friends, and it could just go on for 23 hours.
Oh, I would like to keep it short and sweet. So,
okay.
But yeah, whenever, just hit me up. I'm down.
Okay. Well, everyone, go subscribe to his channels. Thank you, Ageratos, and thank all of you for watching. And
God bless everyone.
God bless.